All right, Steve, there's a quarterback out there somewhere who should be wearing scarlet and gray, we believe, at some point next season, and probably to take that first snap of the season. There are all sorts of names. It's amazing to look at the transfer portal and consider the major programs whose starting quarterbacks are basically free agents. Kansas State, Oregon State, Mississippi State, Arkansas, we could keep going. So what are you hearing? What do you think should happen? Where do you think their priorities lie?
Yeah, it's crazy. Obviously, since we last were here, Ohio State lost Kyle McCord. He decided on Monday to enter the transfer portal, and that created an opening at Ohio State. You figured he would be at minimum in the competition to compete for the starting job at Ohio State next year. And now that job's wide open. You got Devin Brown, redshirt freshman currently, Lincoln Keenholtz, a true freshman, and Aaron Noland, who's coming in as a 2023 signee, will sign his letter of intent here in 2 weeks from today, I guess. So are they in the market for a transfer portal quarterback? I think if they can get one of the top ones who could come in right away and put this team in contention for the Big Ten championship and another playoff berth next year, I don't think you can turn that down. If you get somebody with multiple years, obviously you're going to run the risk of losing Devin Brown. Only Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and Corey Dennis, the triumvirate, on the Ohio State coaching staff, know for sure what they have with Devin Brown or what they think they might have with Lincoln Keenholtz, who they've only seen, a little bit of at this point. So it would be hard to turn down the likes of, say, a Dylan Gabriel, a guy, coming from Oklahoma and Central Florida who threw for a bazillion yards. You've got Cam Ward from Washington State, who's kind of an intriguing possibility as well, 3,700 yards this past season, although the team was only 2-7 in the Pac-12. He only threw 7 interceptions, but he's not much of a runner. I just keep coming back to the fact that you're 0-3 against Michigan in starting quarterbacks who do not run the football. And, there are a number of things wrong right now with Ohio State football, even at 11-1. Got to fix the offensive line, got to fix the defensive line. Could use some impact players at linebacker. A lot of different things that are happening with this program, but you need better quarterback play, and I think that that's kind of what's led us to this point today.
Yeah, and I don't know that they necessarily would have gone to the portal if Kyle McCord had stayed, but him leaving, now you're in a position where you want to explore your options more fully, and from my understanding, they are exploring those options, but it's not a one-way street. It's a two-way dance, and then you're constantly being somebody's constantly cutting in, asking to dance with your date, that sort of thing, and bringing in a fatter wallet. And so it's not just a two-way communication. There's a ton of moving parts in this. As I was telling somebody earlier in the day, it's all of the sand is constantly shifting, and you're just trying to stay above it. And at some point, the sand's going to stop, the musical chairs are going to stop, and either you have a quarterback in the portal or you're going to go with the guys that you've gotten, through recruiting. And we've talked before, they're very high on Lincoln Keenholtz. They think he's the future. That future may be coming sooner than maybe they anticipated. And the move I think they make here, if they go and get a quarterback out of the portal, I assume it would just be a one-year guy, one-year rental, and I would assume that would mean you're doing that knowing that Devin Brown's going to hit the portal. Like, it's going to be a reaction from Brown would be to leave if you're bringing in somebody to start. So there's things like that to weigh, and you're not concerned about losing somebody necessarily. You just want to have the best team that you can. You want to be able to win all of the games that you should, and some maybe that you shouldn't. And you got to do what's best for the program. And if they can get an agreement, and again, this is going to be, as Matt Rule talked about, Nebraska head coach talked a week or two ago, good quarterbacks are going to cost you about $1 million, $1.5 million. Ohio State had a good quarterback. They need a better quarterback. So do the math on that one. You're talking $2 million, $2.5 million for one of these top line quarterbacks. And that's not our money. So it's not my money. It's not your money. It's not the fans' money. Is that an investment that is wise? Does it matter? If it brings in another quarterback, who cares? It's just play money anyway, basically. So I do think obviously they're looking at the portal. I would love to see what happens with Lincoln Keenhold starting next year, just to see. I think it would give some life to the program. But once you start losing, then all of that life goes away. So I know the loss, the Kyle McCord going to the portal. I don't know if I saw a single dry eye on Twitter in terms of there's nobody necessarily upset. So there's a lot of celebrating on Twitter, and Twitter is not necessarily the best representative of the way things are going, but it does just the mystery. I think it does rejuvenate some things. But the Cotton Bowl, my understanding is Devin Brown's going to stick through the Cotton Bowl and then see what happens after that. So you've got that. But I think they're either way, honestly, if they're probably going to go to the portal in terms of either they don't get a starter and they have 3 guys and they need to bring in a 4th in terms of Ryan Day likes to have 4 guys. So you bring in somebody, another Tristan Gebbia type, because you can't bring in a star. If you miss on one of the top guys, you can't bring in one of the mid-tier guys to be a starter because you're not improving anything. And also you might send you might send Devin Brown into the portal because of that. So you need to bring in somebody to just be that 4th guy if you don't get that number 1.
I think there's a pretty large portion of the fan base that feels secure in bringing in a guy that has started games and proven something, and most fans are locked in on their team, so they don't know. Besides looking at a stat sheet or whatever they hear about KJ Jefferson, Cam Ward, you can fill in the blank with about 5 or so guys that would be under consideration. Dylan Gabriel, they don't. That seems like, okay, well, that guy started over there, so he's proven something. I'd rather have a proven commodity than be starting over with some first-time starting quarterback. But obviously, if a player never gets an opportunity to start for the first time, then this is what they will be doing from year to year. But then also there's the experience, most recently with Kyle McCord, to say, well, first-time starting quarterback, see what we got. However that's evaluated, which with most of the fan base means not good enough. So, yes, they can evaluate quarterbacks. That's their job. So if they know that they've got the next guy, and obviously Justin Fields had never started anywhere, Dwayne Haskins had never started anywhere other than throwing that 3rd and 16 dime against Michigan and pulling that out of the fire, but it never started. And of course, CJ Stroud as well. So if they can truly do their jobs, then they know what they've got.
Well, and it's the time frame on all of this is pretty fascinating because you're evaluating guys in the portal, you're preparing for a bowl game, you're trying to recruit your own players, you're trying to finish up a signing day. The calendar is completely ridiculous, and there isn't enough time to do everything that you need to do. And until the calendar changes, this is going to be a mad month. And I think it's one of the busiest days on the Ohio State beat ever a few days ago when all heck starts breaking loose and the portal opens, and it's a brand new world. I think the thing that really is jarring to me is that Ohio State and Oklahoma lost their quarterbacks to the portal. And that's not something like the top of the line blue blood programs don't necessarily have to worry about losing their starting quarterback to the portal. Now, Kyle McCord going to the portal, like I said, I don't think it really made anybody upset. But what if that's CJ Stroud? What if that is Justin Fields as a sophomore? After an incredible year, could we see that? I think Ohio State's NIL arm would do a better job of keeping CJ Stroud or Justin Fields at home. It is surprising that Dylan Gabriel got out of Oklahoma, though.
Yeah, I made the same comment yesterday. It hit me okay, we've only been through this portal. The portal's existed for a long time, but in regards to this amount of players and quality of players, it's only been a couple of years. What level of quarterback, say what you will about Kyle McCord, he's coming off an 11-1 season. We've never seen a quarterback with this kind of success hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, the whole thing is completely upside down right now, and everyone believes the grass is greener on the other side. It's not. I think for most of these guys, they're going to be completely disappointed in what happens. And there's some names out there that have won a lot of football games and thrown for a lot of touchdowns and a lot of yards. And it's a people business. I think Ryan Day and Brian Hartline, Corey Dennis, refer to them again. They need to feel comfortable that with anybody they bring in, that they're not going to come in and disrupt what they already have going. I mean, it's kind of like they've got a program that, for lack of a better term, if they just show up, they're 10-2, 11-1. And in the playoff every year going forward, and they don't want somebody to come in and knock things upside down to where you go 8-4 and everybody loses their job. That's just not what you want. So you've got to be very careful with who you bring in to your program, who you bring into your locker room. And it's very difficult to make those decisions when, at the what they used to say, at the end of a bayonet. You're up against the clock, you're up against all these other things, and the gun is pointing at you. You need to make a decision today. Like the play clock is running down, and you have to make a decision on a person without ever getting to know them. And I think that is a situation that's not a tenable situation. I don't know this. We can throw our hands up in the air and say, oh, NIL and transfer portal, this sucks. And it does, but it's not changing. So you have to embrace the churn. And, when Dwayne Haskins goes pro, you replace him with Justin Fields, and, Justin Fields, whatever, CJ Stroud is there, and you got to have the next guy lined up. You got to be thinking 18 months out at every instance. And so, build relationships with as many good people and players as you can, and fall back on that in these moments.